The Smallcappower Expert Interview.
We're here today with Eric Coffin. How would you describe the current state of the mining space?
Well, it's been a long, difficult 3 years. I think right now I would qualify this as a market that's bottomed, that's getting better, but for maybe another year, I would think. It's going to be the rich getting richer. There are a small subset of companies with superior projects, management, good results. 3 companies on my list raised $110 million in the last 2 weeks. But there's probably, I would say, 700 or 800 companies in the space that it's still going to be a very tough year for, so it's going to be very, very selective. This is not going to be rising tides lifts all boats. I think it's going to be a good year, but you got to be in the right things to have a good year.
Are there companies that will show significant uptrend from these levels within the next 2 to 3 years?
I think so. I mean, you know, my feeling is we're probably going to have a decent market here for at least 2 or 3 years. The big unknown, and it's always a big unknown, of course, is what happens in New York. I mean, if the S&P falls off a cliff, we all go with it, unfortunately. But assuming that doesn't happen, I think there will actually be a number of companies that you're going to see good gains on. Basically, the mining business took its lumps, and it deserves some of them, don't get me wrong. A lot of, in my opinion, inferior projects got a lot of money thrown at them, you know, sort of in the late 2000s, if you will. There's been a lot of washout from that. But I think if you go and look at companies that have, 1, new discoveries, because I'm always looking for new discoveries, but 2, you know, top quartile projects, companies where they've done initial economics, or at least I see enough where I can kind of get my head around it and pull some numbers out. And when you're looking at top quartile, like 25, 30, 35% IRR, relatively low capital cost, those projects are going to get built or they're going to get bought. So there's definitely room there for some fairly big gains. And I think some of the guys that have really been beaten up, you will see them recapture a bunch of their price. But again, it's going to be very selective. You've got to go to projects that look like they make sense at this current metal price and below it, ideally. I'm not a big fan of the let's go find something super low grade because if gold goes to $5,000 an ounce, we'll all get rich. If gold goes to $5,000 an ounce, something really bad is happening somewhere. I'm just showing me something that makes sense right now at today's price.
So as an investor, what are the top 3 things that you look for in a company?
I like to see growth potential. I mean, I like to look at projects where when I look at you know, essentially when you look at the data, you look at the anomalies, you look at what they've drilled or what they've trend so far, I want to see target scale. Because at the end of the day, although I'm a big believer in grade being king and high grades will really make stuff work, the truth of the matter is to get the market to really care and really give a company a lot of accretive value and run their price up, it's got to have scale. So I want to see scale to the targets. I want to see management that I'm comfortable knows what they're doing and can deal with them. And also I'd like to see the ability with decent results for the company to continue to raise money as non-dilutively as possible. There's no getting around the fact the exploration business is a negative cash flow business beginning to end. If the people running the company can't sort of add 20% of the value to the stock by selling 10% more stock, if they're selling 50% more stock to increase their value by 20%, you don't need to be Einstein to see that math doesn't work. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people find themselves. You need to find people whose spending can add more value than the amount of dilution they're going to have to suffer to do it.
What do you ask management to determine whether a company is going to be successful? And would you rather see a CEO from a finance business background or a geologist?
I don't really have a strong preference, although the company needs to have both. Like you know, it's fairly unusual to find that, you know, those 2 skill sets. There are a few guys around that actually have both sides of that, but it's pretty rare. So I'm actually fine with basically a finance side person running the company, as long as they've got strong technical management as well, and those 2 sides get along together. You know, I know companies run by great geologists, but if you can't tell your story and you can't sell your story, you run into that dilution problem again. So I mean, personally, I like to see both, because you've got to accept the fact that this is a business where you've got to raise money to stay alive. So you need both skill sets. I really want to see both. And I need comfort when I talk to the technical guys that they have a vision. Like, we're working on this set of projects. This is why I think these projects make sense. This is what I'm going to do to try to advance them. If you see this and this and this come out of the data, that means I've hit the next mark, and that I can keep advancing this. Because you need some kind of guideposts, because it's difficult if someone walks around this show and the guy goes, yeah, I got 50 meters of a gram. Is that good? I don't know. If you're in Sonora at 500 feet elevation and it's oxidized, it's great. If you're on top of a mountain in northwest BC, it sucks. Like, you have to take each company individually. But I need to see that somebody has a plan, that they know how they're going to get from A to B. They're not just kind of floundering around and hoping the drill is going to save them.
So which junior resource stocks do you like at this time?
There's a few that I'm tracking pretty closely. I mean, they're ones that I've followed for a while. One company that I'll try to come up with a couple of names that I think will have transformational events or news. One company I've followed for years, Gold Quest. It's been good to us. It's had a couple of big runs. They made a very nice discovery in the Dominican Republic. They should have their PEA out in about a month, and that PEA is the preliminary economic assessment. Normally when a couple of geologists running a company, and in this case the chairman and the president are geologists, when they say to me, we're going to take this thing to the next level and be ready to be taken out or to just build it, I usually run screaming in the other direction. Because when a geologist tells you he's going to build a mine, it tends to end very badly. That said, these two guys, the last deal was a discovery in the Dominican Republic that they put into production and got taken out for a really good price. They actually these guys know how to do this. I think the market's going to be surprised when this PEA comes out. I mean, I've kind of run some numbers in my head. I know what Bill and Julio can do when it comes to optimizing stuff. I think the numbers are going to be way better than the market thinks. So that one at its current price, I think is a steal. I think it's going to do very well once those numbers come out. In terms of things that are a little farther along, maybe something with a little more comfort, I started following a company called Sunridge recently. They're basically at feasibility level with a project in Eritrea. Eritrea is a good place to work. One thing I was waiting for, in Eritrea, the government always they have the option of basically buying up to 40% of a project, and they do buy it. They don't take it, they buy it. Okay. It took a year and a half to negotiate that deal. That got done about 2 weeks ago. So now that that's out of the way, they can go and start talking to bankers about debt deals, or my personal preference is somebody just takes them out and all that stuff is someone else's problem. But I think where it's trading right now, I think you got a pretty good shot at somebody coming in and taking it out for 50, 75% higher than where it's trading right now, relatively soon.
Well, Eric, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up to date with all your favorite small caps. Subscribe to our free daily newsletter featuring investment ideas, breakout stocks, analyst research, and more. Smallcappower.com. Investing ideas and research.